It is week 11 of the NFL season, and we've got 14 games this week with 4 teams on byes. We're talking about the New York Football Giants, the Arizona Cardinals, who are leading right now in the NFC West, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the resurgent, is that a word? The Carolina Panthers, who are surging right now, is what I was looking for. Shout out to Bryce Young, man, picking up the victory in Germany last week. We cashed plus 250 dogs with the Carolina Panthers last week in Germany. Just saying. Anyways, we've got 14 games on the docket today for the NFL Week 11, and some big games as well. Commanders, Eagles. We've got Ravens and Steelers, and also the big one on the afternoon slate, Chiefs and Bills in Orchard Park, New York. So let's get into it, folks. And if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly NFL predictions here on the channel, as well as our weekly college football predictions. That video was posted yesterday. The link is in the description down below, along with our daily college basketball best bets, our daily NBA predictions, and our UFC predictions. We did a UFC 309 prediction last weekend, or this past weekend, with John Jones and Stipe Miocic in the main event from Madison Square Garden in New York. All right. Let's get into the first of these 14 games. We start things off here on Thursday Night Football. It's a great game. The Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Eagles to win this game. Prior to last week, I probably would have taken the Commanders. The Eagles are playing really good football right now, man. I mean, just watching this Eagles team on a week-by-week basis, this might be the second best team in the NFL right now, maybe the third best team. Obviously, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL, and I will get to the Detroit Lions when they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars later in this video. But the Philadelphia Eagles are playing great right now, man. I mean, they are. And this isn't just from someone who has Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown, and amongst a couple different fantasy teams. But the Eagles are 7-2. They've not lost since that game against the Buccaneers earlier on in the season, and they have their run game going. Jalen Hurts has been playing phenomenally as well, and you get them at home on a primetime game against the Washington Commanders. I think Washington's going to be in the playoffs this season. I think they will. I'm hoping they don't completely fall apart here, which I wouldn't expect them to, but they do have somewhat of a their schedule's not that bad coming up. It's really just the Eagles, 2 Eagles games. They're going to be a little bit difficult for them. They got to play the Falcons still, but I mean, those are winnable games still for the Washington Commanders. They lost last week to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson is back, obviously, and again, we will get to his game in just a few moments. But Russell Wilson's playing lights out again, so shout out to, what's his nickname? Mr. Unlimited. There you go. That's what I was looking for. So shout out to Mr. Unlimited with the Pittsburgh Steelers winning that ball game in Landover. And now the Commanders have to turn around really quickly on the road against Philadelphia. I just don't like it. I like the Washington Commanders as a whole. I feel like this team should be in the postseason, especially when you look at their remaining schedule. After this week, you get the Cowboys, you get the Titans, Saints, Eagles again, Falcons, Cowboys. I mean, the Commanders, if they win the games they're supposed to win, this should be a 12-5 team. Ultimately, though, I don't think that wins the NFC East because the Eagles are just that good right now. Again, the Eagles have a tougher schedule, I'd say. They still have to go to Baltimore. They have to go to Los Angeles. They get the Commanders, obviously, in Landover, and they get the Steelers as well. But I feel like the Eagles are in a better spot right now to win the division compared to the Washington Commanders, just because of, again, how well this team's playing. The defense is playing pretty well, obviously. I don't know how much we can put into a 34-6 victory over the Dallas Cowboys, considering the Dallas Cowboys are absolutely atrocious right now. They're horrible, and obviously that team loses its identity without Dak Prescott, and of course the Cowboys back on prime time this week on Monday Night Football, so we'll get to that game when we get to it at the end of the video. But I like the Eagles right now. They're playing great defense. I know, again, they've had their questionable games. We're looking at the Jaguars game, the Browns game. But as a whole, this is one of the best teams in football right now. Jalen Hurts has been running the offense really well. He's one of the best quarterbacks right now for his scheme in the NFL. And Saquon Barkley, even in an off day, is still very valuable to this team as well. I like the Philadelphia Eagles to win on Thursday Night Football. They're at home against the Commanders, and I like them to get the job done. It can be Philadelphia to win, and they will cover the 3.5 points as well. Let's go on to our next one. We go to Pittsburgh. A huge game, and I mean a huge game. In the AFC North, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Baltimore Ravens. We like the road team here. We like the Baltimore Ravens. This is a tough one to pick, man. It's a really tough one to pick. Both these teams are playing lights out right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been absolutely dominant. The one thing I will note, the teams they have played have not been the greatest, with the exception of the Commanders. But you know what that Commanders win for the Pittsburgh Steelers tells us? They are legit. And Russell Wilson is officially back. So good for Russ, man. I am happy that Russell Wilson has been killing it. He threw that big touchdown pass to Mike Williams to win the game last week in Washington, and now the Pittsburgh Steelers find themselves at 7-2 here in week number 11. They are in first place in the AFC North, and they get a home game against the Baltimore Ravens to dictate who will be in first place of the division right now. I think it will be the Baltimore Ravens, though. I think they are the better team right now. I think they are. Again, Lamar Jackson should be on his way to win the Most Valuable Player award. I was campaigning for Jared Goff. Unfortunately, for my sake, I can't continue to campaign for Jared Goff currently after that 5-interception game against the Houston Texans. Not to say Jared Goff's not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but it's kind of hard for me to campaign, MVP for Goff this season, at least right now, when Lamar Jackson's playing lights out. I mean, I can't deny it. Lamar Jackson, 2,700 yards, 70% completion rate, 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and on the ground, 550 yards. He's on his way to win his 3rd MVP. He's the best player in the game right now, and on top of that, Derrick Henry, 12 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. It's difficult to beat. They're a hard team to beat, are the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense is that good. They fell behind early in the Cincinnati game on Thursday night last week, but they regrouped and they ended up winning that football game. I think they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I get it. The Steelers have a great defense. It's the first time these two teams have matched up this season. They will meet again in week number 16. But I like Baltimore in this game. I like the Ravens. It's starting to become a thing for me. It's hard to pick against Lamar Jackson. And now, will this finally be the year Lamar Jackson can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs? I don't know. Is it going to be finally the year that Lamar Jackson goes to the Super Bowl and wins the AFC? We will see. Again, we're getting to that part of the season. We are in November now, where you do start thinking playoffs, and you do start thinking matchups, and you think, okay, might be the first of 3 times the Ravens and the Steelers match up this year. And what does Lamar Jackson look like in the playoffs after he has failed in the postseason, year in and year out? I'm just saying, I like Lamar Jackson. I hope nothing but the best for the guy. I'm just saying, you got to start thinking about it. I like the Ravens, though, to win this game and beat the Steelers. I think they're the better team. I love what Lamar Jackson's doing this season. The Mike Williams edition is nice, obviously, for the Steelers, but still, obviously, again, Mike Williams is not going to be, obviously, still the number 1. It's George Pickens, and again, Russell Wilson's playing great, but I like the Ravens to win the football game. They will go to Pittsburgh, and they'll cover the 3 points as well. Give me the Baltimore Ravens to win and cover. Next up, we go to Detroit. So, this is still the best team in the NFL. I'm not going to take any other answers for who the best team in the National Football League is other than the Detroit Lions. This is still the best team in all of the game, guys. When your quarterback throws 5 interceptions and you still win the football game, well, what can you say? What can you say about the Lions defense? Carlton Davis with 2 interceptions. What can you say about the run game? And what can you say about Jared Goff? Still, throws 5 interceptions. What does he do? He stays in the football game and leads them down the field and gets them 2 field goals. And obviously, he wasn't the one who kicked the field goals. Shout out the former Michigan Panther. Yes, the UFL's Michigan Panther in Jake Bates. Those 2 big field goals from 50-plus won the game for the Detroit Lions. This is the best team in football all around. They're just... I said it very early on in the year. This is the best team in the NFL. And after the loss to the Buccaneers, I said this team's going 16-1 this season. I think at Houston might have been their toughest matchup the rest of the way. Truly. Primetime game, AFC team you don't see that often, on the road. That's their toughest game the rest of this entire stretch. I'm serious. At San Francisco, that'll be a little bit difficult, I'm not going to lie. But, okay. 15-2 is the floor for the Detroit Lions this season. They will be the number 1 seed in the NFC. And by the way, there's no doubt in my mind, they're minus 1,000 favorites. They're obviously beating the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are still without Trevor Lawrence. So it's going to be Mac Jones again for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And shout out to the Jaguars, kept it competitive with the Vikings. I don't know. The Vikings are a weird team. Again, they have, I believe, 3 straight road games against 3 straight AFC North squads, if I'm not mistaken. The Jags lost the game by 5 points, but the Vikings won it, obviously. The problem with the Jaguars is their offense is so pitiful. Tank Bigsby's out, so, as a Travis Etienne fantasy owner, that makes me, a little excited. But Mac Jones, at quarterback, I don't think Mac Jones is horrible, but he's no Trevor Lawrence, obviously, and that's going to, obviously hurt the Jaguars. This season has been a wash for the Jags guys. They're 2-8. Trevor Lawrence is hurt. He probably will come back after the bye week, but obviously Jacksonville's not thinking playoffs anymore, right? They're 2-8, about to be 2-9. There's no chance they beat the Detroit Lions, but this is the thing, all right? The Detroit Lions are still the best team in the NFL. Jared Goff threw those 5 interceptions, and they still won the football game. When your quarterback, again, turns the ball over 5 times, and I get it, 3 of them were not his fault. One of them was a Hail Mary. 2 of them were tipped. Whatever. When you turn the ball over 5 times, you're not supposed to win the football game. And they found a way to do it. They shut down and shut out C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans in the second half. That's impressive. The Detroit Lions, again, are the best team in the NFL. I will accept no other answers. The run game, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I'll accept no other answers than who the best team in the NFL is other than the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are winning the Super Bowl. I say it every week when I come on here. They will cover the 13.5 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The game is in Detroit. This is going to look a lot like that Lions-Titans game where the Lions won 52-14. This will be like a 49-10 game. Maybe. Give me the Detroit Lions to win the football game by 39 points. They'll absolutely put BTA to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, let's go on to our next one here. The New England Patriots host the Los Angeles Rams. I like the Patriots to cover. I think the Rams do win the football game. Again, the Rams ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. Just because in the fact, like, all right, the Dolphins, and no, I'm not a Dolphins guy. I'm just wearing this Dan Marino jersey. The Dolphins, like, their record isn't obviously impressive, but the Dolphins are one of these teams right now you don't want to play. They just aren't, because, you know, their record doesn't look very good. A lot of teams got to play them with Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson, and now you look at Miami, right? They get a game this week against the Raiders that we'll get to in a minute, but they're 3-6, and they're surging now, and the way the NFC is kind of shaping up, it kind of looks like either maybe like the Dolphins, the Bengals, one of these teams can steal that number 7 seed and just be a problem for whoever the number 2 seed is in the AFC this season. Again, playoffs are coming up in a couple months. We got to start thinking about these scenarios and who can possibly sneak into the postseason at this point of the year. So for the Rams, right, they lose that game to the Dolphins. They couldn't punch the ball in the end zone. They literally had 5 field goals, so they lost the game 23-15. Prior to that, the Rams were on a 3-game winning streak beating the Seahawks, Vikings, and Raiders. It was weird, though, that Rams-Dolphins game, because the Rams offense was looking so great, right? You get Puka Nacua back, you get Cooper Kupp back, obviously, or all of a sudden Matthew Stafford just has his superpowers back, and they looked very abysmal in that Dolphins game. Sure, they were able to move the ball down the field, but as soon as they got in plus territory, they stalled out and they could not move the ball anywhere. Kyron Williams did not have his best day on the ground. The Dolphins, kind of stuffed him. Williams only with 62 rushing yards. Obviously, again, Puka had his 100 yards. But still, again, they showed trouble getting into the end zone in that game. And now they get the New England Patriots, who are actually coming off a victory. The Patriots are 3-7. They've won 2 of 3 over the New York Jets, lost the Tennessee Titans, and then beat the Chicago Bears. And I'll say it, guys, the New England Patriots have got something going. They do. They kind of do. Drake May is really good for this team. He, again, as a rookie, obviously there's going to be growing pains, and obviously, again, there's going to be time to adapt to everything, adjusting to the NFL level, but Drake May has done a decent job in doing that, and I think, again, the Patriots have a solid future quarterback here in Drake May. I think he's doing really well for this Patriots squad, and I think he's able to keep them in this game against the Rams. Again, the Patriots are coming off a 16-point win against the Chicago Bears, but we'll get to the Bears and about how horrible they are and their whole quarterback controversy now. I don't know why that's a thing, but there is one. I think the Rams do win the football game. They're the better team. But do I expect them to cover? No, actually. The Patriots do play some teams kind of tight. The game is in Foxborough. I would expect, again, the Patriots to look decent in this game. The Patriots defense does play pretty solidly as well. Pretty solid defense as well. I'll just rephrase that. I like the Rams to win the game, obviously. I like the offense, but I do think they're going to see some struggles with the Patriots, and also the Rams have to go coast to coast to play this football game. I think they win, but I wouldn't expect them to cover the 5.5 here. I think that's too much for them being on the road. Give me the Patriots to cover, but give me the Los Angeles Rams to straight up win the football game. As we go on to our next one, we've got, this game. The New Orleans Saints versus the Cleveland Browns. Give me the Saints. I don't know. Right, the Browns are 2-7. The Saints are 3-7. The Saints are coming off a victory over the Atlanta Falcons. Good for them. Didn't expect that one. Let's just talk about how screwed the New Orleans Saints are with their cap situation. Guys, this is a 3-7 football team. Good for them. They beat the Falcons. But obviously, no one's expecting the Saints to run the table. And there's a chance this year 10-7 doesn't get you in the playoffs. So they're out, obviously. And, they're going to lose games down the stretch here, obviously, as well. But, guys, their cap situation is so bad right now. What are they going to do? You're paying all these guys so much money, and you have so much money on the books for years to come, and it's not like even you're winning football games. Now, when the Los Angeles Rams had this problem, it was like, oh, okay, well, the Rams are paying all these guys millions of dollars. They're, several $1 million over the cap or over the salary cap. But you know what? They're winning football games. They're in the playoffs. Like last year, they were in the playoffs, right? They won the Super Bowl the year before. It was worth it for the Rams. What have the Saints done? This team hasn't been in the playoffs since Drew Brees was the starting quarterback. They're paying Derek Carr all this money. Derek Carr, I guess he's their franchise guy. Is he a long-term solution? No. I mean, shout out to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Came into New Orleans. Derek Carr has found his new Rashid Shaheed. So MVS is now the deep ball guy in New Orleans, which is great. Alvin Kamara is doing his thing. But this team is just screwed in terms of cap. I don't know what they're going to do. Now, the football game, they'll probably beat the Browns. They probably will. Jameis Winston kind of reverted back to Jameis Winston in his last game. Obviously, they've had the bye week since, but in that Chargers game, again, Jameis Winston kind of returned to the Jameis Winston we know. Not to take a hit on Jameis, but he looked really great in the Baltimore game, and then the next week against the Chargers, it wasn't all that impressive. Now, this is a revenge game for Jameis Winston, right? He never truly he kind of got the starting job for New Orleans, got benched for Andy Dalton eventually, but, he gets somewhat of a revenge game going back to the Superdome, taking on the New Orleans Saints. I can't trust the Browns to win the Super Bowl, obviously. This football game, my goodness. I cannot trust the Browns to win this game on the road. I just can't. I'll take the Saints here. They're coming off their biggest win of the season. Well, the Cowboys one was pretty big, but then they didn't win a game after that. I don't know. They're coming off a big win, though, against the Atlanta Falcons, a game that nobody expected the Saints to win, obviously. Derek Carr is back. It's the third week back now against the Browns. They are heading into the bye week after this one. I like the Saints here. Obviously, they fired Dennis Allen, new interim coach in. I think the Saints do win this football game. For the Browns, they struggle to get anything going on offense besides, again, Jameis just kind of, playing his, doing his best Brett Favre, impression. Or actually, it's just Jameis Winston. I don't know. Yeah, you don't really compare it to anybody. It's just Jameis gunslinging it. It's because they struggle to run the football. They really do. I mean, Nick Chubb right now is still coming back from injury. He's still, he's just getting back into the swing of things, but Nick Chubb still hasn't eclipsed 55 yards yet this season. The receiving core, obviously, Amari Cooper gone. David Njoku, I'd say, is the number one here, but I mean, you got Cedric Tillman, the former Tennessee Volunteer. You got Elijah Moore as the number two as well. The Browns are going to struggle. They just are. Like, the Ravens game was fool's gold, guys. It was just fool's gold. Okay? They're going to start reverting back to the Browns. Jameis Winston, unfortunately, is going to become Jameis Winston again. And I don't know how this team wins a game, seriously, the rest of the season. Just listen to their schedule. They'll upset somebody, but Saints, we don't think they're going to win. Pittsburgh, Denver, Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Chiefs at Cincinnati. Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. And in Baltimore. This team might go 2-15. This team legitimately might go 2-15. This isn't much of a, oh, I love the Saints pick. It's the Browns. Hey, give me the Saints to win the football game. They'll cover the 1.2 while they're at it. Next up, we go on to East Rutherford, New Jersey. We've got the New York Jets taking on the Indianapolis Colts. So we just got word Anthony Richardson is back in the starting lineup. Richardson's going to start over Joe Flacco. I think it's the wrong move. I guess. Well, here's the thing. I think it's the wrong move to the point where the Colts are still kind of in the playoff hunt, okay? I think if they're trying to make the playoffs this season, Joe Flacco's the best guy for the job. I understand his last 2 weeks haven't been great. Flacco isn't that bad in the Bills game. It is what it is, okay? If they're still trying to make the playoffs, which I think they're definitely in it still, the seventh seed in the AFC is going to be a team that's not very good. That's why, the New York Jets still have kind of hope. Because right now, the 7th seed is possessed by the 5-5 Denver Broncos. Right? Then you got the 4-6 Colts, the 4-6 Bengals, the 3-6 Dolphins, the 3-7 Jets, and the 3-7 New England Patriots. Wow. Anyways, those are the teams that are still alive. So that's why Rodgers and Devontae Adams still have somewhat of hope in New York. It's because, maybe if they run the table like they've been talking about, if they go 10-7, you'll probably get in at 10-7. Now, are the Jets going to run the table? No. But, this is actually kind of a big game between the Colts and the Jets. I'm not joking, it's a big game. Because one of these two teams are going to kind of put themselves in a good spot, not a good spot, but in a better spot in the AFC wildcard race. The loser, starts going down the rankings here. And obviously, this game could end up as a tie-breaking game for that 7th spot in the AFC playoffs. My thing, though, with this game is, and with the Indianapolis Colts is, I don't think Anthony Richardson right now gives you the best chance to win. Obviously, again, you're trying to develop your franchise quarterback. But if you lose this game against the Jets, then I'd say you go to Richardson. Because then look at the rest of the schedule. You're at 4-7, then you got to play the Lions. And yeah, there's winnable games after that. Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jags. But, hear me out, you let Flacco play the Jets game. If he wins, great. Then you try to make another push to the playoffs. If you lose, okay, again, you're 4-7. Yeah, Richardson's going to have to play the Lions game, but then there are very winnable games for Richardson to close out this season with. Again, Patriots, Broncos, it's going to be rough, but still, Patriots, Titans, Giants, Jags, he could win those 4 games. And then you give Richardson all that momentum building into next season. But now, you're still in this playoff hunt. I don't think it gives them the best chance to win. They might be waving the white flag already in the playoff hunt. They really might be. This might just be, all right, we're trying to prepare for next season. We want to see what Richardson's got. Obviously, we're still building this guy up for next year. That might be what this is. It probably is. And I think they're just giving the Jets hope because the Jets are going to win this football game. The Colts are not going to New York and beating the Jets here. They just aren't. Anthony Richardson's not going to go win this football game. I feel really good about that. I get it. The Jets are 3-7. They're not good, right? They lost to the Cardinals. We predicted that one. You know, I thought that was a pretty easy pick. I think the Cardinals are going to win the NFC West. I think they will. The Jets going into the desert just didn't feel like a good formula for success for New York, and obviously it wasn't. They lose the football game 31-6 in Arizona. Cardinals obviously on bye, but I love the Cardinals this season. Kyler Murray's been playing his best year in the last 3 seasons. I mean, again, shout out to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. I really like what they've got building over there in Glendale. But I think the Jets win this football game. Obviously, it was a crappy game last week in Arizona. It's fine. You know, they should be able to win this one against the Colts, and they get the Seahawks at home next week or in 2 weeks after the bye. Like, there's a chance, man. The Jets, can they actually run the table? They still got to play Buffalo. They got to play Miami twice. No, they're not going to run the table. But this win for the Jets, which I expect them to get it, this win will give them hope going into the bye week. And then they'll beat Seattle, and then all of a sudden, oh, they're 5-7, and watch out. The Jets can make a push, and then they'll lose in Miami, and then it's over. Okay? I'm not hating on the Jets. I want to see Aaron Rodgers succeed. I truly do. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. But this just isn't the year for the Jets. And honestly, the problem's not Aaron Rodgers. The problem was never Zach Wilson. The problem is the New York Jets. Okay? That's the problem. Sam Darnold. Look at Sam Darnold. The problem's the Jets. I need to see Zach Wilson get a shot somewhere else. That's just what I'm saying. I need it. I need Zach Wilson to get some shot somewhere else in the league to prove that he's better than this New York Jets bullcrap. Okay? Give me the Jets, though, to beat the Colts. I mean, they're better than the Colts. The Colts are starting AR. I cannot trust AR to win a football game on the road. All right? Yeah, no. Give me the Jets. I feel pretty good about that one. Next up, we go to Tennessee. We've got the Tennessee Titans hosting the Minnesota Vikings. We like the Vikings to win the football game, but we like the Titans to cover. I think the Titans are going to get better as the season goes on here. Will Levis, I feel like, has now finally established himself as a starting quarterback again, I would hope. I know, again, Mason Rudolph won that game against the Patriots, but Levis didn't play all that poorly in the Chargers game against a very good defense. He threw those 2 touchdowns to Calvin Ridley, given one of them was at the very end of the game in straight garbage time. Why is my camera making me look like really pale right now? I swear I'm not this pale. Anyways, regardless, I don't know why, just the lighting. Whatever, it's fine. I think the Titans do cover this 5.5 here. The Vikings have not, been ultra impressive, really. I mean, they've had 2 games where their offenses kind of look lackluster in that Colts game and the Jaguars game. Sure, they won both those against those 2 middling AFC South squads, and here's another AFC South team in the Tennessee Titans, which I think they win, but I don't know if they're able to get away from them. The Vikings, I feel like the Vikings are kind of fraudulent, guys. I don't think this team's going to win the playoffs. I think a lot of people have been thinking that, obviously, because, how well will Sam Darnold really play in the postseason? That's a big question, right? But I think they're going to win this football game. It's weird because, again, the Vikings, on paper, they don't look that great, but they're 7-2, about to be 8-2, and then they get the Bears next week in Chicago. I think everyone would expect them to beat the crappy and lowly Chicago Bears right now. Sam Darnold, he's doing his thing. I don't think Darnold's put himself in a position right now, at least, to where he's going to start next year over J.J. McCarthy. I think Darnold's going to be a starter somewhere in the league next season, but, I think J.J.'s going to be the guy. The Vikings, again, have just looked so lackluster the last 2 weeks, and don't get me wrong, good teams find way to win in games where you look lackluster. So, again, credit to the Minnesota Vikings, but I think when we go down the stretch this season, I think they start to lose. They've got tough games, Atlanta, Arizona, even in Seattle, Green Bay, in Detroit. Those are difficult games. I think the Vikings make the playoffs, but I don't really see how far they go once we actually hit the postseason. And for the Titans, again, obviously it's a team that's not going to the postseason this year, right? They're 2-7, and they've got a gauntlet heading up. They've got in Houston, in Washington, Jags, Bengals, in Indianapolis, Jags, Texans. I mean, those are some tough games, right? I just want to see Will Levis develop. I think he is the guy still in Tennessee. I just need him to play smart football. I think now if he, kind of take what Mason Rudolph was doing and just kind of not eyeing in on Calvin Ridley, but really targeting Ridley for the majority of the game, I think, that can be really successful for the Tennessee Titans. I like the Titans to cover this one, but I like the Vikings to straight up win the football game. 5.5, again, doesn't feel like a lot, but I think the Titans are able to keep the game competitive. The game is at home. They did win the last time they were at home. They've only been home once in the last 4 weeks. So I think, again, the Titans are able to stay competitive in this game. The Titans have covered this line twice, by the way, in their last 2 home games. They beat the Patriots, and they lost by 3 to the Colts. I like the Titans to cover, but give me the Vikings to win the football game. Next up, we go to Miami. We've got the Miami Dolphins taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. I would not expect this game to be competitive. This is one of the games that the Dolphins just completely run away with in Miami. They are the much better team. The Raiders have not won a football game in months. Their last win was against Cleveland, September 29th. This is not a good football team. They are not beating the Dolphins. The Dolphins are now peaking at the right time. You want to look for that 7th team in the AFC, in the AFC playoff race? It's probably right here. I think it is. I think the Dolphins are that 7th team. Let's look at their schedule, right? Raiders, Patriots in Green Bay Thursday. Oh, that's Thanksgiving. Winnable game. Jets, Texans, Niners at home, Browns, Jets. At worst, this is a 10-7 team, I think. I think they only lose one game the rest of the way. 10-7 will get you in. The one game I don't feel great about is that Thanksgiving game against the Packers, but I think it's a winnable game for the Dolphins, right? I really think it is. We'll see. You look at what Miami's got, obviously. They won on that 3-game losing streak, but, they have looked better, and they've looked a lot better since Tua came back, right? Arizona, Buffalo, Los Angeles, right? They win the Rams game on the road as a game that the Dolphins absolutely needed to have. If they were going to remain in the thick of things here in the AFC, they needed to win that game on Monday Night Football against the Rams, and that's exactly what they did. Now they get the Raiders, a team that's coming off the bye week, but this team, guys, they don't have an identity. What are the Vegas Raiders right now? Jacoby Myers, and that's it. Their defense can kind of keep them in games, but not really. The Dolphins are going to boat race him here. It's just, again, the style of offense the Dolphins play, they are so quick, and it's just going to make it so difficult on the Raiders to win this one. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. They are keeping Gardner Minshew as a starting quarterback, which I think is the right move over Desmond Ridder. I mean, we've seen Ridder play, start games before, and, I might be too much of a Minshew guy to, because I was always in favor of Minshew over Aiden O'Connell, and, we'll see. They're going Minshew over Desmond Ridder. I'd assume there's a very short leash on Minshew right now. But I don't think it's all Minshew's fault. They can't run the ball, so they're so one-dimensional in the pass game. And really, his only real target's Jacoby Myers. I mean, obviously, they got rid of Devontae. They traded him from one bad team to another. Their receivers are Dallas Turner, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, obviously. But they're not great. They're not good. This is a game where the Dolphins absolutely boat race them. This game's in Miami. I don't think it's all that close. I think the Dolphins, again, are finally seeing some momentum. I think Tyreek Hill is due for a huge game. Obviously, finally got a touchdown last week on Monday Night Football, broke that long, scoreless streak for Tyreek. Now this is where Tyreek starts to go, and the Dolphins, again, are going to be one of these teams that are just going to be really hot down the stretch. That's kind of where I see it right now for Miami. This is a team that continues to get hot as the season goes on. Again, I think 10-7 is very doable for the Dolphins right now, and I think they will get there. Again, I think they're one tough game the rest of the year. Well, they have two. It's in Houston and in Green Bay. Every other game, I really like them to win. Yes, that includes at home against the 49ers. I do like them to beat the 49ers at home. I don't think it's a sure thing, but I think Miami does win that football game in December. Give me the Dolphins to beat the Raiders. I don't think the game's close. I like what Tua's doing, obviously. This team changes when Tua Tagovailoa is in the lineup. They need to target Jalen Waddle more. He had a great first drive against the Rams, and then we didn't see from him ever again, right? Jonnu Smith's been a really good tight end for this football team. Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright's being worked into things. Raheem Mostert's kind of getting pushed out. And also, by the way, the Dolphins defense playing really well too. The Dolphins defense went in there, didn't allow a single touchdown in that game against the Rams, held them to 15 points, stopped the run game. Yeah, I like the Dolphins a lot right now. They are peaking at the right time. Give me Miami to beat the Raiders, and they will win the game by more than 7 points as well. Next up, we go to Chicago. Soldier Field. We've got the Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. So I don't understand why there's even talk about benching Caleb Williams. I understand he's losing the locker room, which, did I not call that a couple weeks ago? Yeah, I did. But, we'll get to that in a second. And I get Caleb's not playing the greatest, but Tyson Bagent does not fix this football team. Maybe a morale thing, but you do not bench the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You just don't. He's been starting all year long. There's no reason to bench Caleb. Now, did I not call this, though, that things were going to start to, unwind for the Bears? They lose the game against the Washington Commanders. You see Caleb Williams' reaction on the sidelines. Not like he had a crazy game, by the way. He only threw for 131 yards passing in that one. His team was shut out for 3 straight quarters. His offense was shut out for 3 straight quarters. Regardless, though, you saw Caleb's reaction to the Hail Mary thrown by Jaden Daniels and caught by Noah Brown. That gets back. Tyreek Stevenson's situation, obviously, pandering to the crowd. It may be true. Caleb Williams is not a leader. He's a great football player. But unfortunately, right now, the Bears are struggling to score, and they're struggling to get anything done on offense. They've scored a combined 27 points in their last 3 games. And they haven't won any of those games. And now they play a division game against the Green Bay Packers where they're just going to get smoked. And again, I don't really think it's like the Packers are all that. I don't think they are. Maybe I'm just comparing all these NFC North teams to the Detroit Lions, so I'm not calling them all that, just because the Lions are that much better than everybody right now. But the Bears don't stand a chance in this game. They don't. And then look what the Bears have coming up, right? Okay, Minnesota, and then a short week where they have to play on Thanksgiving against the Lions, a Lions team that has never had this great of a record going into Thanksgiving. They're not beating the Lions. They're going to get smoked in that game. And then they go to San Francisco, to Minnesota, Lions again, Seahawks, Packers. They might not win another game the rest of the way. Seriously, they started 4-2. They might finish 4-13. And then you start to wonder, all right, was it worth it getting rid of Justin Fields and trading everything for Caleb Williams? I don't know. They gave him pieces. Their O-line's not great. They really can't run the ball that well, not effectively, at least recently. But they gave him options. DJ Moore, Odunze, Keenan Allen. I mean, DJ Moore sometimes has his routes where he just kind of doesn't really try, it feels like. I don't know. The Bears are a weird team, but their morale's gone. You know, I cannot trust the Bears to win a football game the rest of the season. This team's done. For all intents and purposes, their season ended when Noah Brown caught the Hail Mary. Again, the Bears are done, guys. They're not going to be able to score in this game. Again, it's not like the Packers played lockdown defense, but they did limit the Cardinals to 13 points earlier in the year. I think the Packers absolutely blow them out in this game. I think Josh Jacobs is a huge day. I think Jordan Love has a big day. And again, I know they played poorly against the Detroit Lions, but so far this season, guys, everybody's played poorly against the Detroit Lions. The Packers are coming off a bye week. They should absolutely dismantle the Chicago Bears because the Bears, again, are one of the worst teams in the NFL. For the Packers, again, I feel like they're going to be in the playoffs, but another team that has kind of a tough schedule coming up. And again, I say all these teams have tough schedules. Well, someone's got to win these football games, but still, Packers go at home against the Niners, Thursday night, Thanksgiving against the Dolphins, in Detroit the next Thursday, in Seattle. Like, there's some tough games coming up in the docket for them. Are they going to win some of them? Sure. I think the Packers will be in the postseason. But this game, obviously, they're going to put belt to ass to the Chicago Bears because the Bears are not good at football right now. And again, their locker room is in disarray. They are not behind Caleb Williams, so we will never be behind them for the rest of the season until shown otherwise. Okay? Give me the Packers to dominate that football game. Next up, we go into the afternoon slate. We start things off at Mile High. We have got the Denver Broncos hosting the Atlanta Falcons, and I actually like the Broncos. I don't pick the Broncos often. They should have beat the Chiefs. Will Lutz gets his field goal blocked. And again, I don't know what devil sorcery magic keeps on going on in Kansas City, Missouri, because something's up. Like, how do they keep getting away with all this stuff, guys? I don't understand. I don't understand how it keeps happening for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll get to them in a minute, because they are playing, of course, against the Buffalo Bills. And that's a huge game that might determine who the number 1 seed is in the playoffs for the AFC. Again, we will see. But I don't know what devil magic keeps on going on for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's absolutely ridiculous. They beat the Denver Broncos in a game. The Broncos had it. They had it won. They have the ball downfield. They have it at the 20-something yard line. All they got to do is hit a chipper to win the football game, and it gets blocked. The Broncos had it. And the Broncos, again, you can say what you want about their offense. Their offense is not great. They scored 14 points in that game against the Chiefs. Obviously, probably should have scored 17, but it is what it is. Their offense isn't good, though. That's the problem. Their defense, best in the NFL. One of the best defenses in the NFL. Bo Nix struggles a lot. He's been better, but I still don't trust Bo Nix to, lead a playoff team, obviously. They're making the switch at running back, it seems. They're, going away from Javonte Williams. They're going to the former Notre Dame Fighting Irish player in Audric Estime. I don't mind the move, honestly. Estime, I think, had like 12 carries for 53 yards. I know that because I tried to pick him up on waivers, and I got outclaimed for him, but it's fine. I don't mind the move at all at running back. Javonte Williams is 24 years old, but I guess Sean Payton's moving on. Again, where the Broncos will struggle is with their offense, but where they're great is with their defense. And that's where, again, the Atlanta Falcons are going to have trouble in this game in Denver. They're just going to have trouble scoring. If they had trouble scoring last week against the Saints, I know Cousins had 300 yards. Regardless, they only scored 17 points. If they struggled with offense in that game, they're going to struggle against this Broncos team. I truly don't think the Falcons are that great. I think they had a good stretch. They are probably still the best team in the NFC South, but I could see this team going on a skid. In Denver, bye week, then the Chargers come to town, then in Minnesota. I don't know. I could see the Falcons kind of falling out here, or I could see them just kind of winning the NFC South by default because the Bucs are dealing with injuries, obviously, right? The Panthers aren't very good. The Saints aren't very good. Even though, hey, shout out to Bryce Young. He's been balling. I could see again the Falcons starting to spiral and still make the playoffs at 9-8. We'll see. I don't think they're going to be able to score that effectively in this game. Again, going to Mile High is rough, especially with the way this defense is playing right now. They've got a great secondary, obviously led by one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and Patrick Surtain. I like what they're able to do and able to bring pressure, obviously, and I think they're going to make it tough on Kirk Cousins in this game. We've seen the Falcons lose games on the road before this season. We saw them lose in New Orleans. We saw them lose. Actually, I forgot. I thought the Seahawks game was in Seattle. It wasn't. They lost the game at home too, but again, Cousins, their entire offense kind of rallies around him and everything gets going through Kirk Cousins. I feel like this is a really rough game for Kirk. On the road, again, the pressure that the Broncos are able to bring, and they've got a secondary that really confuses a lot of quarterbacks. Again, they were able to limit Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to 16 points. I get it. The Chiefs have not been the same offense that they've been year in and year out this year, but still, holding Mahomes and the Chiefs to 16 points means something. Give me the Falcons to lose this football game at Mile High. I like the Broncos to get it done. I think they play stifling defense, and I think they shut down whatever the Falcons have got coming back at them. Give me the Broncos to win the football game and to cover the 2 points as well. Next up, we go to Santa Clara, California. You got the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Seattle Seahawks. I think this goes without saying. The 49ers should beat up on the Seahawks here. The Seahawks, they came back in that game a couple weeks ago against the Los Angeles Rams. They ended up losing the football game in overtime with the Demarcus Robinson game-winning catch. And sure, Geno Smith does get DK Metcalf back this week, but the Niners are playing good football right now. The Niners feel like they've finally turned a page, kind of, even though they were in trouble in that Tampa Bay game. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Jake Moody, honestly, if Jake Moody doesn't miss all those field goals, they win that game pretty easily. But, San Francisco, or Tampa Bay was in that game towards the end of it, obviously, right, and almost, won that one. We'll see how much Christian McCaffrey plays or how well Christian McCaffrey plays. Obviously, the 49ers weren't entirely relying on McCaffrey in that game against Tampa Bay. They weren't, everything wasn't running through McCaffrey like they have done, prior, obviously, to this season. But of course, McCaffrey's still coming back from the injury. I would only expect his role to continue to progress and, increase as the season goes on. And shout out to Brock Purdy. 353 passing yards in that game against Tampa Bay. Now they return home against the Seahawks. The Seahawks have always played like crap against the 49ers, at least in the last 4 seasons. I mean, just a couple seasons ago, the 49ers beat them 3 times in 1 year. I'd expect the Niners to dominate the Seahawks in this game here. Seattle has lost back-to-back games. They got blown out in the Bills game, and sure, they were competitive at points in that Rams game, but still, that game was at home for Seattle. Now they go on the road. I think they're the worst team in the NFC West. They're 4-5. They look great in the Falcons game, which is the one outlier here, which really doesn't make sense. But still, they're now 4-6. They're going to be 4-6 after this loss to the 49ers, and I just think the 49ers dominate this football game. They've got the better defense, obviously. Nick Bosa is going to start playing his ass off, obviously, like you saw last week in Tampa Bay. And I like the 49ers. They give Lenore that big contract extension. I like what the 49ers are doing. I think they easily win the football game, and I think they dominate at home here against the Seattle Seahawks. The line 6.5. I think they get it done. I think the Niners need to have a game where they absolutely just kill somebody. This has to be it right here. Well, they won the first encounter, by the way, by 12 points. Thursday Night Football in Seattle, the Niners won it by 12. I'd expect them to win this game by about that 14-point margin here against the Seahawks. Give me San Francisco to win the football game by more than 7, and they will get it done, obviously, at home in Santa Clara. Next up, we go on to the game of the week. It is by far the biggest game. The Buffalo Bills host the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills are getting 2 points at home, and this is where the Chiefs finally lose. They're not going to Buffalo and beating the Bills. They just aren't. They're not going to be able to keep up. I get it. The Chiefs' defense is great right now. I understand that. That's how they more so they've been winning games through their defense. It's not been by the play of Patrick Mahomes, obviously, even though Mahomes has been better, but still it's not like the Chiefs' offense is blowing anybody away right now. It's their defense that wins them football games, and it's really their run game too, and obviously that's why I think they struggled so much against the Broncos. Kareem Hunt really couldn't get going in that game. He was their leading receiver with 65 yards, but on the ground, Kareem Hunt only with 35 yards rushing. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco will come back next week in Carolina, so this will be the last week, it should be, of Kareem Hunt being the every down back. I feel like the Chiefs have to still incorporate Hunt somewhere in the offense come next week. I don't think you can completely abandon Hunt, especially with Pacheco coming back from injury. It's just the way this works. Guys, Kareem Hunt's getting up there in age. Might as well use Kareem Hunt right now while he's still good. And obviously your franchise guy at running back is going to be Isaiah Pacheco for years to come. Might as well kind of burn Kareem Hunt right now and, just kind of ride him for the rest of the season. And then when the playoffs come, obviously, next season, then you go back to Pacheco all the time. But while you have him and the performance that you've gotten out of Kareem Hunt, why not keep him there and, keep him being the lead back? That's all I'm saying. I think the Chiefs go to Buffalo and lose this game, though. The Bills are playing better football right now. The Bills have not lost a game since that road loss in Houston. They lost back-to-back games against two good football teams in the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans, but they've won every single game since, beating the Jets on the road, beating the Titans, beating the Seahawks, beating the Dolphins, beating the Colts. Josh Allen is playing like one of the best players in the NFL. I don't think he is the MVP right now because there's a guy in Baltimore who should be winning it in Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen is a close second. I'm not going to lie. Josh Allen is right there in that MVP race, right? The entire team's playing really well. Amari Cooper, obviously, back from injury this week. I like the Bills to win this football game against the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are able to keep up. That's my thing about this game. I don't think Kansas City is able to keep up with the offensive production of the Buffalo Bills. I just think the Bills have a better offense. And sure, on defense, yeah, will they struggle against Kansas City? Sure, but the thing is, the Chiefs' offense has been struggling against literally everybody this season. So why wouldn't they struggle against the Bills too? It's not like, oh, the Chiefs are playing great defenses every week, because they're not. The Broncos game, sure, but they struggle to score the ball some against the Raiders. They struggle at points. That Chargers game, well, the Chargers have a good defense, but still, the Falcons game, the Bengals game, they're not playing great defenses every single week. It's just they have a problem on offense right now, and obviously I expect it to be fixed come the postseason. And obviously, again, the Chiefs are winning football games, so how much of a problem can it be? They're 9-0, obviously. But now when you start playing elite teams, it does start to become a problem. Again, I think the Chiefs will have trouble in the postseason, and right now, at least, with the Bills and the Ravens. Those are the two teams that are going to give them a lot of trouble. I think the Bills get it done. I think this is the first step towards the Bills getting the number one seed in the AFC this season. I think both these teams might finish 15-2, and the Buffalo Bills will get... Actually, no, the Bills have to play the Lions. Oh, maybe not. Regardless, give me the Bills to win the football game. I'm actually looking at the schedules, and I think it's going to be kind of tough for the Bills to get the number one seed, actually, because the Chiefs have a way easier schedule, and the Bills still have to play the Niners. They have to go to Los Angeles to play the Rams, and they have to go to Detroit as well. Oh, that's rough. Give me, though, the Bills to win this football game, but I like the Chiefs probably still to win the AFC. At least be the number one seed. We'll see. I think these two teams will meet again. Let's just hope this time the Bills don't run a fake punt with DeMar Hamlin in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's move on to Sunday Night Football. This game got flexed to, again, this one, obviously, the Bengals and the Los Angeles Chargers. Originally, this game was supposed to be the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets, so I'm completely fine with this switch. I like the Chargers in this game. The Chargers defense will win them this football game. They will. The Chargers defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense in the NFL. Like, don't let that 17 points for the Titans confuse you. That was really going to be 10. Will Levis drove them down the field at the end of the game and scored a garbage time touchdown with literally 20 seconds to go to Calvin Ridley. Okay? This is still one of the best defenses in the NFL, the Los Angeles Chargers. The pass rush that they're able to get with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. The secondary, obviously, featuring guys like Derwin James, obviously. But just as a whole, this Chargers team is dominant. The secondary is great. Denzel Perriman, obviously, one of their linebackers as well. They've got guys who can play, man. This is a very good Los Angeles Chargers football team. They get the Bengals here. And again, Cincinnati has to go on the road. They're coming off that heartbreaking loss to the Ravens. And this is where I think the Bengals season starts to take a turn. I know they were just 4-4 going into that game, but that was, or 4-5, but that was such a huge game for them. On the road in Baltimore, if they could have stole that game, they're 5-5, and they're coming off a win over the AFC North leading, or one of the best teams in the AFC North. Obviously, the Steelers are kind of leading, but it's fine. Okay, the Bengals still have a very tough schedule. Actually, it's not very tough, but they still have some tough games. And for the Bengals to make the playoffs, they have to be somewhat perfect, because there's so many other teams in the equation for the AFC playoff race. We mentioned it earlier, but still, we can laugh at the Colts, we can laugh at the Jets, but they're involved. The Denver Broncos have a good defense. They're going to give teams problems. Obviously, the Miami Dolphins are the team that I think are going to get out of that little AFC 7-seed scramble. But there's a lot of good teams, and the Bengals have to play really good football and consistent football down the stretch. And obviously, again, the problem doesn't stem with Joe Burrow. It's just their defense will give them problems sometimes because their defense isn't able to, get stops. Jamar Chase and Burrow obviously had a huge game last week on Thursday Night Football against the Ravens. Burrow, 428 passing yards. Jamar Chase, 264 receiving yards. It's a huge night, and they still lost. And now you're taking on a really good defense that's going to stop whatever you got going on offense. They're going to put pressure on Joe Burrow. Again, Burrow's great, but I just think the Chargers give them a lot of problems on that side of the football. I like the Los Angeles Chargers to win this football game. The Chargers offense obviously is not their strong suit right now, but they do enough to win football games. Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey, and the run game with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and Quentin Johnson in the pass game as well, and Will Dissly as well, they do enough to win football games. They do. The only way the Chargers lose is when their offense doesn't show up. I think they show up in some capacity in this game against the Bengals, and I think they win it. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers on prime time on Sunday Night Football to dispose of the Cincinnati Bengals. They will win this game, and they will cover the spread as well. It's 1.5 points, but still, give me the Chargers to get it done. They will cover the spread as well. As we go on to Monday Night Football, why? Why is this Monday Night Football? It's the Battle of Texas. We got the Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's just there's so many good games this week, and this is how we end the week with the Texans and the Cowboys. I mean, man, oh, goodness. It's such a bad game. It just is. It's such a bad football game. The Texans win, I guess. They were 6-2. They're now 6-4. Back-to-back losses to the Jets, and then the Lions game where, again, they turned Jared Goff over 5 times in that football game, and they still lost it. They could not score in the second half. That Kaimi Fairbairn missed the 50-something yard field goal, and obviously that put the Lions in great position for Jake Bates to knock in the game-winning kick. But now, luckily for the Texans, they play the absolutely horrible Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, again, are absolutely horrible right now. And that's who they get to play. I think the Texans should be fine here. The Cowboys, without Dak Prescott, again, the entire team's kind of injured right now. Cooper Rush had 45 passing yards last game against the Philadelphia Eagles. They could not get CD the ball. They could not get Jake Ferguson the ball. They couldn't run the ball at Rico Dowdle either. They have nothing going for them. Their defense doesn't care anymore. Micah Parsons, obviously hasn't been playing, but Micah Parsons is more concerned about his podcast than he is the actual game or getting back on the field. Micah Parsons is on his podcast talking about, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL, which that's fine to say, but dog, you're literally the NFL and you're on a different team and you're just saying, openly, the Lions are so great, which they are. But it's just, that's not what you want to hear. Yeah, this is all Houston in this game. What does Dallas do? Seriously, what can the Cowboys do? 7.5, sure, give me the Texans. The Cowboys won't be able to score more than 14 points. The Texans score 28, they win the football game, and they cover. I get it. Again, the Texans are still injured, but we'll see if Nico Collins comes back this week. If he does, great. But, you got guys like Tank Dell and John Mechie, the former Alabama receiver, who's really stepped up. I've always known John Mechie's more than capable of being a very good receiver in the NFL, and he showed that last week against Detroit. He's been showing that with the injuries that Houston has had, and I'm glad he's been able to showcase himself. Houston's winning this football game. Joe Mixon should have a huge night. Obviously, they rely a lot on the run game. I think Stroud will have a better game than he did last week, or at least the second half of last week, and I'd expect the Houston Texans to absolutely run over the Dallas Cowboys. So an anticlimactic way to end the video, but I just don't care. I just don't care. The Cowboys are just that bad. Give me the Texans to dominate the football game. The Cowboys are playing like one of the worst teams in the NFL because they are exactly that right now. With no Dak Prescott, they are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have no identity. Guys have given up. Jerry, I don't know. Just do something. Do something, Jerry Jones. I don't know. And folks, that'll do it for our Week 11 predictions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more weekly predictions here at the NFL. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank you all for watching. And Mamba, forever.